Hey Zaka family! Zaka is launching an exclusive membership platform to provide you with career development workshops, coaching, community, and so much more. Go to ZakaConnect.com and sign up to receive information on how to access early registration and perks. Hello, everybody. This is Paul Herman, the Prince of Motivation and host of Zaka Presents My Journey. We're creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you get inspired and motivated from different leaders from our community. Today, our guest is motivational keynote speaker, Rene Godefroy. Rene, welcome to the show.
Great. It's good to be on the show, and I'm excited about it.
I'm excited to hear a lot of things about you and about your journey. I know you definitely have an incredible story from just reading over the bio and just hearing a little bit about you. And I'm very curious before we dive into where you are right now in your career, but more about where you're from. Tell us a little about where you were born, and also your cultural background.
All right. So the journey for me started, Paul, in a tiny village in Haiti in poverty and diseases. A long, long journey to why I'm here today. I struggled a lot in the village, and it was very difficult, very tough, because my mom left me in the village when I was only 9 months old, and she went to Port-au-Prince, the city of Haiti, the capital of Haiti, in the hope of finding a better way to provide for me. But right after she left, many deadly diseases pounded to me, and quite frankly, they vowed to end my existence. So at the moment, when I was a kid, I thought that God was unfair, and I thought he had forgotten about me, or I felt like all alone in the village. Eventually, I was able to leave the village when I was about 7 years old. I was still sick, and went to Port-au-Prince to be with my mom. And so that's when I met my mom for the first time, and I met my sister and my brother, who were living in Port-au-Prince. Paul, I really think when I was leaving the village that my mom was rich. I thought she had a lot of money, because after all, when I got to Port-au-Prince, I saw all the motorcycles and bicycles and Mercedes-Benz and the big cars and lights. I had never seen lights before until I left the village. And I was thinking, my mom is probably doing great here. That's the end of my struggle. But I was wrong, because my mom was living in a little shack infested with rats and roaches. My brother, my sister, and I, we slept on the floor with the rats and the roaches crossing all over us all night. And there were mornings when the rats would nibble the bottom of my feet. That's when I realized the journey, the misery in the village was nothing compared to what I was about to face in Port-au-Prince with my mother in the city. So yeah, so the lesson here, Paul, is when I was in the village, because I was so sick, a lot of the people counted me out. They sort of like predicted that I would not make it because I was so sick. And so for anybody who's listening to this, I just want you to know that people will count you out. They'll predict your future. But the reality is, if you accept it as the truth, it's become your truth. For some reason, I didn't really accept the prediction for me. So I thought somehow, I don't know how, people ask me all the time, there was so much more to life than what I was actually experiencing. So yeah, you might be ready to start a business, you might be ready to write a book, or you might be ready to start anything, or a new job, a new position in the company. Mm-hmm. And people will tell you that you are not qualified, and they will count you out. So yeah, that's a lesson. Never let that happen to you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, what you said was definitely very empowering. I feel like, leaving the village, meeting up with your mom at that time and your brother and your sister, like being reunited and thinking, like you said, like you walked into there and you're like, oh wait, she's in Port-au-Prince, so things might be a lot different, and it wasn't. What kept you going during that time to be like, obviously you left the village and now you're in a roach and rat infested, apartment. Like what kept you motivated to keep going forward?
What really, the people around us, that's very important. When I got to the city, there was a lady by the name of Tatida, whom I dedicated my book to. She was just as poor. And I remember one day I was so hungry and life was so tough as a little kid. And I went to her and I started crying in my kid's voice. Why life is so tough, Tatida? It's Christmas. I don't have toys and there's no food to eat. And I don't think I'll ever be anything. I was really telling her. And she said to me, I still can remember how she looked at me with penetrating stares and she held my hand and she said, don't you ever say this about you, because one day you're going to have more than enough to eat. You're going to have plenty of food. You're going to make a name for yourself. You're going to be big. And I still don't understand how she was able to see that in me, because she was just as poor as I was. Mm-hmm. And so she literally predicted my future. And I can tell you that was my motivation. And it's still my motivation to this day, that one lady. And everybody should have that one person. Sometimes it's a mother, it's a father, it's an uncle, it's a neighbor, it's a friend. But yeah, the people around us can make a big difference in our lives.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, with this being said, like obviously a lot of things you're saying, like there was some light at the end of the tunnel. Like you knew that there was potentially going to be that road that you're going to have to go down. It's going to be dark, but you're going to have to find your way through. Did this inspire you to become a motivational speaker, or who inspired you to become one?
That no, that didn't inspire me to become a motivational speaker. In fact, I mean, I came to the United States for survival. So speaking actually chose me. I didn't choose it. I knew I was destined to make a difference in the world since I was a kid. And I was able to look back and see the steps and realize, like, yeah, I'm supposed to make a difference. I didn't know what it was, but I was working at a hotel. Then I started listening to this guy, Les Brown, and I'm pretty sure you know him, most definitely, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I started hearing him and sharing his story, and I started reading books, and I said to myself, okay, then I've tried everything in the United States. Maybe I'll try the speaking thing. I didn't know how I was going to start, what I was going to do, but I said, hey, I'm going to share my story. So he was the inspiration. I can say sometimes you can logically put it together, but I think what our purpose in life, what we are supposed to do, is calling us 24/7. If we really listen and pay attention, we'll find out what it is, because it's there with us.
True.
So maybe Les Brown was a trigger, or something else could be a trigger for you. Sometimes it's a message, it's a sermon. Sometimes it's just life just hits you so hard and you realize, like, hey, there's a call to action. I've got to do something. Yeah, for me, that's what it was. But I want to say speaking chose me. I didn't really choose it, because I was never qualified to be a motivational speaker in the United States, according to the conventional way of thinking.
True. I get you. Now, with that being said, your story is very unique, and I'm sure you get like the same reaction every time you speak about it, talking about your journey in America. Like, I know obviously you talked about, it's back in Haiti, but that journey in America, could you speak a little bit more about like those early struggles you faced coming to America, being in America?
Yeah. So first of all, I entered the United States in a way that now I can ruffle some feathers, because it's very controversial the way I entered this country. But I came, first I was playing theater, drama with a group when I was about 20 years old, going on to 21. I traveled, I went to Montreal, Canada. But for me, Paul, as a poor kid, The United States of America was the promised land for me. Somehow I knew if I ever make it to the United States, life would be better. And so I got to Montreal, Canada, and I found out that United States was next door. I was like, okay, then there's got to be a way. I tried to get a visa from Montreal to come to the United States. I got denied. And I found somebody who was smuggling people into this country. And so I struck a deal with the lady, Mireille. I still remember her name. And I arrived in this country wedged between the rear tires of an 18-wheeler, covered with ashes, dust, and smoke. I was very skinny back then. That was pre-chickens and rice. I tell my audiences all the time.
Wow.
And so when I was at the border, I remember it was like around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and the immigration officer came to inspect the truck. And so they opened the back of the trailer, and he had his flashlight, and I was underneath the trailer, watching his knees and his boots and stuff. And I made my prayer, and I said, God, I promise you, if you help me make it to the United States of America, I will not waste my life. I will do something meaningful with my life. And I prayed. At that moment, Paul, I had a lump of dust in my throat, and I wanted to cough, but I couldn't, because I was afraid I was going to get caught. And I kept swallowing and praying. And I remember when he said to the truck driver, go ahead, have a great trip. That's when I knew I made it. I'm going to be in the United States of America. I was so happy and excited underneath the tractor trailer.
Now, were you the only one underneath?
Actually, I was not the only one. It was 2 of us. And so the thing about it is it was very dangerous, because I was watching on television at the time. So what happened is the truck drivers would bring the people here with the cargo, whatever they're bringing to the United States. If immigration was really strict, they were checking thoroughly. The truck driver in front will, radio CB back then, the truck behind, and say, hey, don't even try. And it was in the news. They were actually killing those immigrants because they had a job. They had their job. They had a delivery to make, and dump them in the bushes there. And I knew it was very dangerous. But when you're 21 years old, you are ready to take a risk. And I share with my audiences all the time. Sometimes you have to put yourself in the mindset of that 21-year-old kid who is hungry and desperate in life, and operate out of a sense of urgency and take some risk and dare to face the obstacles, whatever is in front of you.
And that was a massive risk. You never know what's gonna happen. You could have got caught. The truck driver could have got caught. The whole operation could have, went down. But again, you were trying to find a way through. Now, a question I need to ask is that did you leave mom and sister and your brother in Haiti, or did they come to America with you? Were they in Canada?
Yeah. Okay. So my mom had traveled to France, and I had a sister who was already living in Miami, but my sister didn't know when I was taking the risk. She actually found out when I got to the United States. And I have a younger brother. He was still in Haiti. So we were pretty much all over.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. Well, I could only imagine what your audience is thinking at this point in time. And even when they're with you face to face inside of your motivational seminars, like when you express that story and about struggle and how you just kept on going and going and going and going, and you finally made it here. Now, obviously, you're made it to be a successful entrepreneur, motivational speaker. What were some of the jobs that you started off with before you got there? Now you're in America. You're like, it's the land of the free, land of opportunity. What was like some of those first jobs?
I've tried pretty much everything. My first job in the United States was I started a business with $5. I was in Miami, and I couldn't find a job because nobody would give me a job. Even McDonald's. I remember I went to fill out an application to get a job at McDonald's, and the guy wouldn't even give me the job because he said I didn't speak English. But I just wanted to pick up trash in the parking lot, right? And I wondered, do the trash cans in America actually speak English? Because I was going to interact with just the trash cans.
Oh, you create. I like your creativity.
I know creativity is king. And so, Paul, what I did, I had $5, and I went and I bought a bottle of dishwashing soap, and I bought some used towels and a bucket, and I went to a bank in South Miami called Total Bank. And I started knocking on the doors, meaning asking the drivers if I can wash their cars. There were so many rejections, and no, and no, and no, and no. My English, I didn't speak any English when I came here. So, but you know what happened? When I was a kid back in Haiti, I used to go to a place called Champ de Mars, where the American tourists used to come. And as a poor kid, I used to walk behind the American tourists with an extended hand, begging for whatever they could afford. In fact, that's how I found out that I wanted to come to the United States, because one American couple gave me a dime, and they touched me so compassionately as a kid. And I said, whoa, I want to go to the United States of America one day, right? And so there were so many rejections, Paul, when I was walking behind the American tourists. No, 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 no. Plus, I had to fight with all the other kids. I had a lot of competition, and I shared that a lot with salespeople when I'm speaking, particularly Aflac. I do a lot of trainings, a lot of speaking. And so the rejections I was experiencing at the parking lot of Total Bank was very familiar to me. It's like the universe or God was preparing me for such a moment. And I kept asking because on the other side of no, it's a yes, guaranteed, because no, it's impossible for no to exist without a yes. It's just a matter of getting to it. And one guy said yes to me. And I remember he had a green Saab. And back then I didn't know, because I know A is I don't know when you pronounce Saab. I used to call it Sabe back then, right? And so I did a terrific job, Paul. And after I did that job, the rest is history. I started washing cars in the parking lot of that bank. And that was my first job in the United States, actually. Just like you say, creativity, I created my own opportunity right there.
I like that. I think that's very important. I know that the listeners are going to resonate well with. Like, sometimes you got to create your own reality, and I know sometimes people are stuck in a certain place, but you still have the ability to help change it. You know what I'm saying? Every day you wake up, you could either fall victim to it or say, look, I'm not going to live with this. I'm going to figure it out. And, $5 to start a company with $5. I mean, hopefully in 2022, we could do that. I don't think there's a possibility of doing it with $5, but you did it. And
Paul, really
it
quick,
worked.
The difference is resources and resourcefulness, right?
Yep. I'm with you on that.
So in the United States, what we have resources, it's all available to us. But we have to be resourceful in order to get to the resources. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. And if you're not knowledgeable about those things, or you're not hungry to go get that information, then obviously it doesn't work out for everyone. That's why it's a very hard lifestyle to live, starting off your own business, especially coming from struggle. So like now you're doing several different jobs, things are working out for you, you're trying to gain some income and get your foot in. Like, what was like the breakthrough that made you realize that, this is something that is going to lead to you being a motivational speaker?
Okay, so I started speaking. First of all, when I said I was going to become a motivational speaker, I didn't know how it was going to happen, but the how is never our business. I joined Toastmasters Internationals, and I started giving my, all the little speeches that you give at Toastmasters. And for those of you who don't know what Toastmasters is, it's basically a place where a lot of corporate people or salespeople, they go to learn how to speak on their feet. And I just joined because a lady by the name of Sandy told me about Toastmasters, because I didn't know how I was going to become a motivational speaker. I just declared and decreed that I was going to be a motivational speaker. Mm-hmm. And I started speaking. I just started going to the civic clubs and doing free speakings, and basically just like I'm talking to you, I was sharing my story, because every person has a story, and that story is in fact a transformational story to transform people's lives. If you know how to craft that story, it is called a signature story. So it became my signature story. And so I started doing it. I really didn't know if indeed I was going to succeed as a motivational speaker. You've got to have audacity.
Yeah.
And I give this speech for the National Speakers Association. And I'm laughing because I didn't really pursue that speaking engagement because people, big time speakers, all the big names, they send demo videos to get on that stage. And I didn't, though they got my demo video, but I didn't really send it to them. It's a whole story that, that we can do a whole interview about that. But when I gave that speech at the National Speakers Association in front of Zig Ziglar, I mean, all the big names, and I received that standing ovation, that's when I knew I was onto something. I said, hey, I'm going to pursue this.
Wow. See, all it takes is someone to acknowledge what the gift that they have inside of them, and it's like really displaying and owning up to it. And I think that something that I'm hearing from this whole conversation was that you had a lot of confidence when doing it, right? Now, I know in your career you motivated many successful people, and you've traveled to speak at Fortune 500 companies. How did you gain the confidence to do all of that?
So that's a great question, and I say that, Paul, because confidence is everything. It's literally is everything. If you go to the bank to get a loan, your level of confidence. If you go on a stage to speak, your level of confidence. If you want your friends, your family members to invest in your dream, in your project, your level of confidence will determine that. So confidence to me is everything. Of course, probably right after mindset. So my first speech was a disaster. It was for Toastmasters International. It is called an icebreaker. So you're supposed to talk about your mother, who's your mother, how many siblings, your brother and sister, where you from, where you went to school, very basic things. But I was extremely nervous. I was so nervous. When they introduced me for that icebreaker, I began to tremble. My heart was pounding like a horse galloping, and I held the lectern, and it was shaking as if there was an earthquake.
How many people were there?
Not that many people, about 10 people.
But sometimes that's the worst. Sometimes it's a little bit more nerve-wracking when you got 10 people.
You're right about that. Yeah. You're so
like
right
10
about
people.
that.
You're like, wait, hold up, it's just 10 people. No. It's 10 people who are actually looking at me versus, you got 300.
My mouth was like dry. I forgot even my name. I forgot my mother's name. I literally forgot everything. It was as if my mind checked out on me and said, "Fool, you are on your own," and I'm standing there.
Yes. That's right. And you're like,
so I rattled that speech, Paul. My mom name is I'm from Haiti, in poverty in a little village. And after I finished, I got there's 10 people. They stood up. They gave me a standing ovation, and it was a competition for the night. And there was a veteran Toastmaster. He actually clearly won. They gave him the award, but he took the award. His name was Tom. I still remember Tom. And he said, I know I got the award, but I want to give it to Rene. Rene deserves it. And I was oh my God, the universe or God keeps showing me signs. This is what I was meant to do. So that first speech for me was a disaster. You remember, there's a saying that goes, every master was a disaster. So
you better drop a gem right there. You better drop a gem. You better write that down.
Yeah. And so the lesson here, Paul, is nothing you're going to do is going to work at first. In fact, I created a video on TikTok about this. If it works at first, maybe it's not worth pursuing. It's supposed to not work because every master was a disaster. It didn't work for every single one of them at first, but with persistence. If you see, quality comes from quantity. So my confidence as a motivational speaker comes from the fact that I kept speaking. Even when I was not good, I kept doing it, I kept doing it, I kept doing it until quantity out of quantity, quality. See, it's impossible to have quality without quantity, right? Even if you have something that is quality at first, somebody has to go through it. And then until they get to this quality that you and I are enjoying today. So keep doing it. You will get, I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, do the things you fear, and the death of fear is certain.
Okay. I like that. Every master was a disaster. That's very well said. I think that's it's important to know that you're gonna fail in the beginning and you're gonna fail along the journey. But you gotta know that if you want to master something, you gotta know the goods and the bads of it. You know, some people just want to see the goods. Now, as a keynote speaker, I know you spoke at large companies like Coca-Cola, Verizon, GE, Capital. I remember, I saw something about U.S. Army, AT&T. What was like the most remarkable one that you spoke at? I know you said you had at the first one, it was a little hard for you, and you said that was the worst one you gave. What was like something that you could look at right now and say like that was the one that was the most remarkable one?
Yeah, so beside the keynote at the National Speakers Association, I spoke for the Florida League of Cities, all the mayors in the state of Florida. It was an audience of almost about 2,000 people. That's when, for the first time, I was going to be introduced to the Haitian community. I spoke, it was at Boca Raton Resort. They had a lot of Haitians, politicians, and a lot of people there, a lot of the Haitians in the media people there. That's when they met me for the first time, and they realized, wait a minute now, where were you? Paul, no one, let's say, how to say, no one is a prophet in his or her own country, right? You've heard of that before, right?
Yes, I have.
It's almost like if you are in your comfort zone, which is your tribe, which is where you are, it's almost like you have to step out. You have to leave the tribe, sort of like what my mom did in the village. It was not popular back then to be in your 20s and to leave a child behind and to go to Port-au-Prince without any guarantees, any friends or family, people to support you there. And sometimes you have to step out of that zone, that comfort zone. You got to leave the tribe to go somewhere else. So that's why that speech was so important to me. It was like, oh yeah, now my Haitian people discover me. And then now I started getting a lot of invitations to be on television, on radio, in Haiti, speaking engagements in New York, wherever they had the large Haitian communities. That speech to me was, it was essential to my career because, I was able to reach my people.
Now, is that something that you would classify as successful? Like, I want to ask that question. Like, what does success mean to you? Like, how do you determine your success?
Success to me, I learned it from a guy called Nightingale Conant, and he wrote a book, I believe it's called Lead the Field, and he's no longer with us. He said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. So that means as long as you are making progress, you are succeeding. And people and most people, they give up because they don't know how to appreciate the process. They don't know how to appreciate progresses or little progresses along the way, because it is, so they say a big shot is a little shot that keeps shooting in order to be a big shot. And so most people walk away, most people quit. Like this interview, right, Paul? That's progress to me, because you've been doing this with Zaka for so long and you never quit, you never give up. So asking, am I being successful? The answer is yes, because you are making progress along the way. And tell me this, you find yourself, you are becoming a better interviewer along the way. Am I right?
Yeah, I definitely, especially with I've done a few podcasts and interviews before, but since it's catered towards a certain type of demographic and we're looking to grab some, I'm definitely noticing that. And then everyone pulls it out of me, even more. So like you said, you got to be around the right people. And you're right about that, because everyone has been on the show, are great in guests on the show and really great conversations. And that's what it really comes down to a lot of the times.
Yeah, progress is success. For anyone who is listening, Paul, if you are about to quit, you're about to give up, you have to remember, first, it doesn't work out at first. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. Second, as long as you are making some type of progress, you are succeeding.
Now, I know you have a quote that it kind of hit me a little bit. I mean, you're saying a lot of new things, like obviously in our conversation, but right now the quote that kind of stuck out to me was something about, along the lines, you said something about struggle is not the lack of knowledge, but something along the lines of like struggle is like the lack of like courage or something. Could you talk a little bit more about that quote of yours?
Yeah, so it's, our problem is not knowledge, because we are living in a world where knowledge is bountiful. There is a plethora of knowledge everywhere, right? We have access to books and everything, the internet, Google's and YouTube. I think it's a lack of courage to act, even when you don't have a guarantee that it's going to work, to take action. So most people are looking for guarantees. Some people have the idea and they talk themselves out of it before they even attempt, before they even try, because they are looking for some kind of guarantee. So it's the courage to step out and start doing it, even though you don't know how. Because the how, remember, for me, I didn't know how I was going to become a motivational speaker, but along the way, the how will begin to reveal itself to you if you have the courage to start and dare to make a fool out of yourself, because you probably are saying to yourself, what if it doesn't work? What my mom, what my dad, what my friends, what my ex-co-workers, the job that I left, what they're going to think, what they're going to say about me. And so that alone can be paranoid for you, and you never really start. So that's what I mean by that, is you don't need any guarantee, because I promise you, promise, you will find the how. Everything will magically appears to you in the face of your courage. When you are so courageous, when you take the risk, when you step out, that will reveal itself to you, the how.
Can wow, you saying some stuff, Mr. Rene, tonight. I like that. Can you describe some other endeavors when you're not being a keynote speaker? Like obviously that's a very big part of your life right now. But like, what are some of the other things you're doing when you're not being a keynote speaker?
So according to the hierarchy of Abraham Maslow, I think it might be self-actualization. For me, my primary drive in life is learning. So learning for me is fun, it's entertaining. If I were going to go to Disney World right now, I know it's a lot of entertainment, but I would be learning. I would be looking behind the scene, how things are done. I would really be, I'm always learning. I'm always seeking for a piece of information that can help me take the next step. So when I'm not speaking, I'm actually learning, and I'm coaching clients, because you would not believe it, when you are coaching, it just like you said a moment earlier, Paul, as the interviewer, you are getting a lot from the interviewee. When you are coaching, you are basically a student, just like the person you are coaching. You are learning a lot. So I'm constantly learning as I'm coaching my clients. And I love to explore psychology. I love philosophy. Absolutely. I love philosophy because it all starts with philosophy. Every field, psychology, every other field, they all come from philosophy. That's what we had at first, the Plato and Socrates and all. So I'm always learning about psychology because all life is psychology if you think about it, right? So I know I'm a human being, therefore I'm always becoming. I'm not static, because I'm a human being. I'm trying to grow. So I'm always learning about these kinds of stuff. But more importantly, mass control, group think. You know what I mean? When people start believing in something, they start saying it because the group, or maybe study shows or whatever. I'm always trying to find out why do we fall for these things. So always looking behind the scenes. Yeah, when I'm not speaking, I'm diving deep into philosophy, psychology, stuff like that.
And that brings me to my next question. I mean, your coaching business, like, who do you usually coach, and what are your clients looking for?
I coach entrepreneurs, most likely. See, every single of us, we have one problem, according to me, and the problem is mindset. A lot of entrepreneurs come to me and they would talk about, let's say, I need money to invest in my company right now, and I'm like, no, you don't have a money problem. It's not a money problem you have. There's something that I call the iceberg deception. The iceberg deception is when you see an iceberg in the water, what you see above the water is only 10% of the iceberg. But 90% of it is below the water. So the problem that we are able to articulate, the problem that we think we have, it's only 10%. So as a coach, my job is to dive deep beneath the water and help them explore the 90%. And the reason I say help them explore the 90% is because I don't have it. I don't know it. They have it. For every problem comes with a solution. Every question, wherever the question comes from, the answer is there already. So, Paul, there is a saying that goes, when we are inside the bottle, we cannot read the label. So you need somebody outside of the bottle to read the label for you. And so therefore, as a coach, that's what I do for entrepreneurs. I help them know what's outside of the label of the bottle, because we are so buried inside the business. It's very hard to step outside of the business and see what we cannot see.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You can't. Yeah, you're right about that. That's essential, where people are like thinking, and when you dive in, especially when you're an entrepreneur, like, you're sometimes so busy locked into the business that sometimes you don't think outside of the business. What's next? You think about it, what's the day to day, because I have to find out how to make it work now. But thinking ahead and thinking outside of the box always does help. Now, with this whole coaching thing, I really want to ask this question. Like, if someone's like really trying to reach like their highest potential, but they feel stuck in some way, what do you feel is like the secret source or the biggest advice you could give to somebody?
That's a great question, because
you were coach. I was like, hold on, we're gonna pull this one out. Come on, coach.
I'm always thinking about the tribe that we belong to, Paul. I think the secret is most people struggle a lot in life because of the people around them. So that's why I think in the multi-level marketing, they always ask you, when you come to the meeting, bring your significant other or others, because They know as soon as they do the programming, whatever they are doing there, when you get back, the tribe, they're going to talk you out of it because the tribe is very afraid of you. So the secret is to be in the company of people who are dreamers, people who are thinking next level, people who are working on something versus people who are comfortable in the comfort zone. It's comfortable in the comfort zone, but nothing really grows in the comfort zone. Nothing really happens in the comfort zone. So you need to get out of the comfort zone or get away from the tribe, even though the tribe will try to pull you back. Oh boy, we know that they will try to pull you back, but do your best to go to places, have friends like, people like Greg, like Paul, and be in the company of dreamers, people who are dreaming something that will make somebody said, I've read somewhere, the environment is more important, is more powerful than willpower. It doesn't really matter how much willpower you have. It doesn't matter how much you say you are going to do this, you are going to do that. Yesterday, I created a video for TikTok about this, about, what we can do is one thing, but what we will do, that's something completely different. Because we know we can, we know we want to, but we are not doing. Most often it's the people in the environment, it's the people around us. It's very hard to stay motivated when you are around people who tend to be negative. Like when you share your dream with them, they step on your dream or they belittle you. Sometimes they call you crazy, which is a good thing if they call you crazy, because the crazy ones are the ones really making it in this world, right? But for me, the answer, Paul, is try as best as you can. If you can't get out of the environment, find mentors in books. Like even if they are dead, read the books and converse with people like Napoleon Hill or Andrew Carnegie, some of the great thinkers, and read the books and have them be your mentor. Just seek counsel from them in the books instead of people who are actually up to nothing.
And and that's why people, especially now, like you said about the resources earlier, having access to like podcasts, having access to like YouTube and various social media platforms, having access to books, audiobooks. Like you said, if you don't have a mentor right now, you could definitely find one through those books. You could find someone through those podcasts and through those various different platforms. So I think that's something that a lot of people need to acknowledge. A lot of people also from the audience, now that I'm thinking about it, so a lot of the audience members are immigrants, and sometimes they don't know how to brand themselves at work or advocate for themselves, right? And I know you could relate to that. So what kind of advice could you give to those individuals?
Oh, say that again, Paul. Can you restate the question for me again?
Yeah, the what I was asking is a lot of the platform, Zaka platform, right? A lot of the people, our audience, are immigrants, right? And sometimes they don't know how to brand themselves at work or advocate for themselves. That's been a big question and concern or topic that we have talked about several times on here at the platform. Can you give any advice or something you would recommend for those types of individuals?
Oh, great. Okay, love that question because, I talk a lot about branding. Everything we do in life, everything is branding. Like right now, this is branding. Your voice prints branding. What you wear, everything you do, the company you keep, it's all branding. I know we can talk about branding in the sense of the colors and website and all of that, but branding is about so the thing you have to think about branding is consistency, right? If you are consistent, like I go to TikTok and I see, okay, there's a potential there. Then I'm consistent. I'm creating those videos. I'm creating videos. You would never understand the power of somebody who wakes up and turn on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, and then bam, you are right in their face talking to them. Hi, how are you? Good morning. And you are talking to them. It's just like, that's branding. It's like this guy, it has omnipresence. I see him everywhere. So you have to be everywhere. You have to take advantage of all the social media platforms. Now it's one piece of content rules for all of them. You create one piece of short video you put it on TikTok, you put it on Instagram, you put it on YouTube, you put it on Twitter, you put it everywhere. That's branding. People will start seeing you everywhere. They're like, man, this guy is everywhere. It's omnipresence. That's the way it is. And so now, Paul, we are not branding locally anymore. We're branding globally. Like, as I'm speaking to you right now, I can tell you for a fact, there's an app called Wisdom. There are people listening to me right now on Wisdom, some of my talks. There is Clubhouse, where I spend a lot of time. There are a lot of people right now listening to some of my recordings on Clubhouse. There are a lot of people watching me on YouTube right now as I'm speaking to you. There are a lot of people watching me on TikTok right now as I'm speaking to you, and Facebook right now as I'm speaking to you. And when I go to bed, I'm sleeping, they are still looking at me. So every one of us, we have content inside of us. So we have something to share with the world. We have a message, we have a story, we have a voice. So if you want to brand, start creating content and put it out there and put that content everywhere. And don't worry about how many people are going to watch, because you might put the first video out and crickets, probably 2 or 3 views or 5 people. Don't worry about that. For you, as I said before, nothing works at first, but consistency, that's what branding is all about to me, is to be consistent.
Consistency. I always say consistency leads to victory.
That's right.
That was always a big thing that when I'm talking to individuals and connecting with them, I always say, look, there's so many pieces of advice that I could give you when it comes down to being an entrepreneur, being an artist, an athlete, whatever, mom and dad. Consistency leads to victory.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, again, Paul, have you ever seen, like, you go to see a speaker on a stage, you're like, man, I'm better than this. Or you see somebody on television, or you pick up a book or something, you say, man, I can write a better book. Or I'm so much better than this. So, but the question is, why is it that this person is where this person is, and then most people are still stuck in the comfort zone? Is because, first of all, this person had the confidence to confront the unknown and go for it, but yet they didn't give up on the first, second, or third, or fourth try. They stay consistent. That's why they have less talent, and some people are so much more talented than they are, but they are crushing it out there. That's the key when it comes to consistency.
I like consistency. It is a word that, like, some people, you just got to be consistent. No. If I would recommend anybody, like, you obviously have discipline, you got to have hard work and work ethic and all that, but consistency is essential in the growth process. Now, I know that in your journey, you've been through a lot of struggles, ups and downs, and obviously coming from Haiti to where you are now. But, like, what was one of the lowest you felt in your career, and how did you handle that? How did you get around it?
For me, just like a lot of people, especially speakers, it was COVID-19, 2020. The entire speaking industry collapsed. All the hotels and no speaking engagements. It was like, when you wake up, you realize, like, oh, what am I going to do now? There's no speaking industry anymore. I was like, fortunately, I was very good at creating videos. I'm very good with technology, Zoom and all that. So I had an advantage there, but I was not really focusing so much on digital marketing and stuff. And I decided, you know what? I'm just going to brush up on my video skills, digital marketing, and all the things that I knew. Basically, I leverage SEO, search engine optimization, years earlier in my speaking career to dominate Google, the search engine, to be number one. on all the search engines, and that's what did it for me. So I decided I was going to. So this guy, Alvin Toffler, he has a quotation, a quote, and let me see if I can, if I'm not going to butcher it, right? He said, in times of difficult change, the he said, the learners will wake up to find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. But the learned, right? Okay, so yeah, I just give it to you. I knew I was going to give you the learned are the ones who wake up and find a world to deal that no longer exists, because they already learned, they are full of it. They went to college and they're training in the company for 15 years, and they've been doing the same thing over and over again. They are the learned. So they wake up in times of difficult change and find like they are beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. But he said the learners will inherit the earth. That's, for me, that was it. I'm like, what do I need to learn, to master, to get better at in order to reinvent myself from being primarily solely a motivational speaker to now to create digital assets, okay, to have a membership site or to start a coaching program, which I was not looking at prior to that. So I began to learn all the skills that I needed to learn. I'm always a learner. So I really became a learner in 2020. And believe it or not, a lot of the speakers in 2020, they left and they never came back. That was the end of their career. But for me, it's not the end of my career. So the advice here is, so you ask yourself consistently, okay, here's what, this is the recession, or this is COVID-19, this is what's happened. What do I need to learn? What new skills do I need to learn to master? You can go to Udemy, you can go to any website or LinkedIn, and then begin to master new skills to reinvent yourself.
Now, when you express about like that low point, I feel like something that's gonna any one of us are gonna want to know now. Like, and I know you talked about some of the things that you do at the have done for other companies, but what is one of the most proudest achievements by far in your career? You seem like you've done so much. You touched so many lives, work with a lot of great people, a lot of great corporations. You've traveled a lot, So like, what is like one of your proudest achievements?
But when I look back at how I came to this country unable to speak English with $5, 2 shirts, 1 pair of pants. In fact, I was a janitor in Miami. I don't have a high school diploma to this day. I didn't go to college in this country. And for me to have the audacity, I'm speaking, I wrote a book, Kick Your Excuses Goodbye. It's also on Audible, and I read the book myself. And for me to accomplish all of this on my own without, high school, that's a very proud thing for me to look back. It's just like a lot of people, they wake up every day meditating on their excuses. I guess I wake up every day meditating on my reasons why I should.
I like that. Rene, man, you've definitely done a lot, and your story is very powerful. I think that you've, through our conversation, like just hearing about how you went from Haiti to America to washing cars to having only $5 and starting a business. Like, there's something about you that you're cut from a different cloth. Like, no matter what the struggle was, you were like I'm gonna find my way out of this. And to see you now and to hear your stories of how you're like coaching people now to do the same thing, like, it's an honor to be coached by you. That's the case. So any of his students that are on right now listening to this right here, I'm just gonna say it's an honor to have a coach like you who knows how to fight through it to make something happen. I think one of the last things is like, what is like the last advice or any advice you could give to someone that's listening right now? Like, any final words that you would like to share with our audience?
The final, what I'd like to share is your voice matter. You make a difference. Don't let the imposter syndrome stop you. If you are in a room, that means you belong to the room. Don't feel like you shouldn't be there. Wherever you are, you belong there. And yeah, just step out because you are supposed to make a difference. Let me end up with a quick story about probably the most powerful event. Right, I went to Haiti to speak. I was on television and I was doing the interview just like I'm doing the interview with you. And at the end of the interview, this young lady, she came to the television station and she said, "Mr. Godefroy, I came because I have something to share with you." I said, "All right, go ahead." She said, "I wish you had come to this country 2 years ago because I was watching you on television. You were sharing your story. My best friend finished high school and she couldn't go any further. And she was so broke and so dejected and felt rejected. And so she gave up. She took a piece of rope and she committed suicide. She hung herself. And
sorry to hear that.
2 years ago, if you were here and my friend heard you, she would have been alive." She said, "The reason I'm sharing this with you is because I was exactly where my friends were when she killed herself. I had decided that I was going to do the same thing. And then when I saw you on the television sharing your story, you're saying no condition is permanent. I just had to come to say thank you. You gave me my life back." That was powerful for me. And so, Paul,
Right.
for everybody who's listening to me, you can make that kind of difference in your own way. If you start a business, you are making a difference. Whatever you do, don't that dream that you have, just step out and start doing, and instead of talking about it, because you are bound to make a difference in the world.
Wow. Rene, man. Wow. That definitely was the icing on the cake right there. That story right there. I appreciate you for even being vulnerable and opening up and sharing that story with us. And it goes to show how much you are valued by so many people. And I appreciate you being on the show today. And I really want the listeners to know how to get in contact with you. If you could share your social media platforms, your website. I know some people might be looking for some coaching as well. Like, how do our audience members connect with you?
Yeah, I'm actually everywhere. But if you want to get like a free coaching session with me, just go to bookrene.com. It's RENE. Paul, when you're from Haiti, Rene is RENE. Instead of Rene here, the female is RENEE, but it's bookrene, RENE.com.
Mm-hmm. And that's the main platform to go to.
Yeah, that's where you go, and immediately you get to my calendar and book a coaching session with it.
Now, what if someone wants to book you for motivational seminars? Is it the same place as well?
Same place. You'll get in touch with me, or you can go to my primary website, which is my name, renegodefroy.com, which is branding. My handle in all the social media is renegodefroy.com, and my thumbnail is the same everywhere for personal branding. So.
Well, Rene, thank you so much for being on the show with us today, and it's kind of sharing just your journey and your goods and your bads. I feel like definitely this one is a very empowering and definitely impactful interview, and I'm glad I was able to have you on the show and share this moment with you.
Awesome, Paul. Thank you for having me on the show.
And to the listeners, if you want to hear more inspirational stories like Rene, please check us out on ZakaConnect.com. Follow our feed, Zaka Connect, and follow our feed, Zaka, wherever you listen to your podcasts.